Hi there, friend. I'm so glad you're here. If this is your first visit, don't forget to subscribe and share this video with friends or family. It truly helps my channel grow. Let me know your city or country in the comments below. I value every message. Let's get started. Claudia's gaze shimmered with an enigmatic spark as she looked across the dimly glowing table at Julian. The candlelight danced across their faces, casting flickering patterns that softened the room around them. A soft tune played faintly in the background, adding a tender stillness that wrapped the evening in an almost cinematic calm. Even after 10 years together, the bond between them was palpable, still electric in its quiet way. But beneath the familiar comfort was something new, a subtle shift in the air, a faint unease that hinted at words waiting to be spoken. "Julian, there's something I need to talk to you about," Claudia said at last, her voice calm but deliberate, every syllable carefully measured. He lifted his eyes, already recognizing the tone. This wasn't casual. He braced himself, expecting a conversation about vacation plans, a job change, maybe even the house project he'd been avoiding. But her next sentence landed like a thunderclap. "I think we need to break out of our routine. I want to try something different. I love our life, but I feel like we're standing still." She studied him, measuring his response. "We've built something wonderful, but I think there's more we haven't explored. Together," she continued, her gaze locked with his, her voice quiet but unwavering. Then she said it. "I've been thinking about going to a swingers club." Julian froze in place. The words reverberated in his mind, strange and startling. He struggled to reconcile this suggestion with the composed, thoughtful woman he'd loved for so long. What had brought her to this idea? He stared at her, momentarily silent, the atmosphere thick with unspoken questions. Sensing his shock, Claudia extended her hand, letting her fingers gently brush his. "I'm not saying we jump into anything," she said gently. "I just needed to be honest with you about something that's been quietly stirring in me." She paused, steadying her thoughts. "It's not about fixing something broken. It's about rediscovering us, rediscovering me, with you." Her words, tender and open, struck a chord in him. The surprise began to give way, slowly, to a cautious curiosity. He knew their relationship had always been built on trust, on openness. He couldn't deny that a kind of quiet monotony had begun to settle in. Claudia's proposal, while jarring, was also a testament to her desire to grow. He didn't want to shut it down, not without first trying to understand her fully. "Why now?" he asked quietly. "Why haven't you mentioned this before?" She gave a small, brave smile, part vulnerability, part strength. "Because I wasn't sure how you'd react. I was scared. But I realize now that if we're going to keep evolving, we need to be completely open. No pretending, no hiding." Julian took a long breath. Her openness didn't push him away. It drew him in. Her vulnerability felt like an invitation, not a demand. "I'm going to need some time," he said. "This is a lot to take in, but I want to understand what it really means to you, and maybe what it could mean for us." Relief washed over Claudia's face as she nodded. "That's all I'm asking. Just talk to me. No pressure. No timeline." The rest of their dinner unfolded with gentle conversation, but something essential had shifted between them. A new possibility hovered in the space between glances, an idea tentatively taking root. Though Julian was still unsettled, a part of him stirred, curious, even hopeful, drawn forward by the woman he loved and the mystery she had dared to share. They hadn't made a decision yet, but in their mutual willingness to face the unknown together, something meaningful had already begun. In the days that followed, Julian found himself returning again and again to that conversation. Claudia's words echoed through his mind, unexpected, intimate, and strangely awakening. Her desire had stirred something inside him, pushing him to question old assumptions about what love and intimacy were supposed to look like. It felt as if her confession had peeled away a familiar layer of their relationship, revealing a deeper, uncharted space between them. One quiet morning, with a mug of coffee warming his hands, Julian let his thoughts drift back to that evening. The idea still made him uneasy, but it also fascinated him. On impulse, he picked up his phone and began to research. He sifted through story after story, testimonials from couples who had explored similar territory. Some spoke of deeper connection, of revived passion and emotional breakthroughs. Others warned of missteps, of complicated emotions and hard lessons. With every account he read, his understanding deepened. The path Claudia had suggested wasn't simple, but it wasn't frivolous either. That night, when Claudia walked in the door, she found Julian on the couch, his expression unreadable. But as she neared, he looked up and met her eyes, ready to talk. "I've been thinking," he said simply, "and I've been reading. I needed to see it from all angles." She sat down beside him, her pulse quickening. "And?" she asked, her voice careful but hopeful. Julian took a long breath, trying to organize the storm of thoughts in his head before breaking the quiet between them. "I've been reading about other couples' experiences," he said slowly, "and I think I'm beginning to understand what you've been feeling. Still, I can't shake this fear. Fear of what this could mean for us, for everything we've built together." Claudia didn't speak. Her eyes held his steadily, listening with quiet intensity. She knew that what she had brought into the open wasn't easy to digest. "I'm not trying to push you into anything, Julian," she replied softly. "I just couldn't keep these thoughts to myself anymore. Maybe it's something we can consider, if it makes sense for both of us." He nodded slightly, the seriousness of her words sinking in. This wasn't just about the idea of stepping into a swingers club. It was about what they might uncover, fears, vulnerabilities, or truths they hadn't yet faced. "I understand, Claudia," he answered gently, "but part of me can't help wondering, are we thinking about this because something's not right between us?" He motioned toward the subtle distance that had formed between them, a space that now felt more pronounced. She leaned forward, her fingertips brushing against his face in a quiet act of reassurance. "There's nothing broken, Julian. I love you. I always have," she said. "But sometimes I think we've gotten too comfortable, too settled into our routine. We've stopped surprising each other, stopped growing together." Her words hit something deep inside him. What they had was strong, but maybe it had dulled with time, grown quiet in ways they hadn't even noticed. A knot tightened in his chest. The idea of venturing into something so unfamiliar made his stomach turn, but it also hinted at the chance for something new, something vital. After a long silence, he exhaled. "Okay," he said, "let's keep the conversation open. No pressure, no deadlines, but whatever path we take, let's agree that love and respect stay at the center." Claudia smiled, and the tension in her expression softened. "That's all I ever wanted," she said, "for us to move forward together at our own pace." A sense of relief washed over Julian. The talk had been hard, but it left him feeling closer to her than he had in a long time. They held each other on the couch, breathing in the quiet comfort of shared warmth, and in that embrace, something dormant between them began to stir. It felt as though a door had been quietly unlocked, one that led into unknown territory. And the simple fact that they were willing to walk through it together was, in its own way, a powerful act of connection. As night fell, the moment arrived. They sat in silence outside the building. From the car, the place didn't match the image Julian had conjured in his mind. No flashing lights, no pounding music. Instead, the structure resembled a refined, discreet home. Its understated elegance made it blend into the neighborhood. There was an air of exclusivity about it, like it only revealed itself to those earnestly searching. Julian took another deep breath, trying to steady the emotions that crowded his chest. He turned to Claudia, and she met his gaze with a calm, grounding smile. They didn't speak it aloud, but both understood. They were in this together. "No expectations, no pressure," she murmured, her hand resting on his. Her touch was steadying, solid. "If at any point this doesn't feel right, we leave. No explanations needed." Her words were gentle, but her sincerity gave them weight. Julian believed her, and in that belief, he found a strange sense of peace. Together, they stepped inside. Their hands remained linked. The entryway was welcoming, with warm wooden floors and soft lighting that cast a golden hue over the room. There was nothing vulgar or overwhelming about the space. Instead, it felt calm, even inviting. A couple greeted them kindly, outlining the house's expectations with quiet professionalism. Consent and mutual respect formed the foundation. Those were the non-negotiables. Everyone had the freedom to engage or withdraw, without judgment or pressure. As they moved deeper into the house, Julian and Claudia saw laughter, gentle conversation, and subtle affection exchanged between people. There was none of the crude spectacle he had once feared. The environment felt authentic, relaxed. People moved freely, at ease in themselves and with each other, without pretense or tension. To Julian, it felt like stepping into a new culture. Strange, yes, but undeniably human. He realized the real challenge wasn't the environment, but his own preconceptions. In one of the lounges, draped in rich fabrics and lit with soft amber lights, the quiet hum of mellow music wrapped around them. Claudia poured them each a glass of wine and handed one to him. "To whatever comes next," she said, her smile warm and sincere. He smiled back and raised his glass in return. The wine burned pleasantly on its way down, loosening the last of his anxiety. They sat there for a while, quietly talking, watching the room unfold around them like a living painting. Then another couple approached with gentle smiles. There was a curiosity in their expressions, but nothing insistent, just a quiet welcome. "First time?" the woman inquired, her tone laced with warm curiosity. Claudia offered a relaxed nod. "Yes, we're just seeing where the night takes us. No plans, no expectations." Julian, listening quietly, found himself unexpectedly moved by the ease in her reply. She exuded the quiet confidence of someone casually arriving at a familiar friends' gathering. Their hosts greeted them with open friendliness and pointed them toward a nearby sofa. The conversation quickly took on a natural rhythm, flowing effortlessly through topics like local gems, culinary favorites, and travel adventures. To Julian's own surprise, laughter came easily. His usual caution was slipping. The space felt welcoming, almost as if they belonged. Yet underneath the surface-level banter, something else stirred, a charged, invisible tension. It felt like standing at the edge of something unfamiliar, where each word or glance hinted at deeper possibilities. Claudia reached out, her fingers gently wrapping around his. When their eyes met, there was something unspoken in hers, checking in, offering reassurance. He responded with a quiet smile, noticing how calm he felt in that moment, more than he expected to. It wasn't the novelty of the place that grounded him, it was her presence. This shared experience, however undefined, had already drawn them closer. Time inside those walls took on a different quality, slower, more intense, like every moment held the potential to become something lasting. It became clear that what mattered wasn't the location or even the people, but the journey he and Claudia were embarking on together. Each second was peeling back layers of trust, strengthening the foundation of something long built, but still evolving. What lay ahead wasn't just about the external adventure. The real leap, he realized, was internal, surrendering to the moment, shedding familiar defenses, and walking into something unknown, hand in hand. As the night unfolded, they drifted through the house, eventually entering a larger room where soft music filled the air and people moved slowly, almost dreamlike. The lighting was low and golden, casting everything in a secretive glow. Julian scanned the scene, still adjusting to the unfamiliarity of it all. The contrast to his structured life was stark. He felt slightly displaced, while Claudia moved as though she had returned to a part of herself she'd missed. Her laughter rang out easily, her movements fluid and unburdened. He watched her with quiet wonder. When she caught his eye, something in her expression made him wonder if she was more at home here than he was. The thought unsettled him, and he pushed it aside. He didn't want hesitation to unravel what was just beginning to bloom. The couple they'd met earlier returned, suggesting a game, a light-hearted way, they explained, to foster connection. Claudia agreed without pause, and after a brief moment of doubt, Julian followed. They sat in a circle as one participant explained the rules, part truth or dare, part self-revelation, all meant to stir openness and spontaneity. The first questions came gently. How had they met? What was their most memorable trip together? But then the tone shifted, growing more intimate. "What's a desire you've never spoken aloud to your partner?" someone asked Claudia. She hesitated. Her gaze held Julian's, and in it he saw a flicker, something raw and slightly nervous. "I've sometimes imagined what it would feel like to see you desired by someone else," she said, her voice low but steady. Julian felt his heartbeat quicken. The confession caught him off guard, not just the content, but what it implied. It spoke to a yearning for something deeper, a search for unexplored aspects of their connection. He wasn't sure what to say. Part of him was drawn in, another part instinctively pulled away. "I don't know how I'd react to that," he admitted, eyes locked with hers. Claudia nodded, as if she'd already considered his response. "I don't either," she said. "It's not really the act itself, it's the idea of what it might reveal, about us, about trust and jealousy, where our boundaries really lie." Even as the game continued, it felt as though the two of them had slipped into their own world, full of words left hanging in the air. To Julian, the notion of watching someone else desire Claudia was as disturbing as it was strangely compelling. He found himself wondering how much he was willing to face, how many hidden parts of himself, his insecurities, his assumptions, could he truly examine. As the game wound down and people dispersed, some dancing again, others lost in conversation, Claudia and Julian stepped away, searching for a quieter corner to talk. "What you said earlier," Julian began, but she touched a finger gently to his lips. "I just needed to speak my truth," she whispered. "This isn't about pushing you into something. It's about figuring out what we're willing to explore, together. No pressure, no expectations." He let out a long breath, trying to process everything that had unfolded. She was right. This night was about exploring, not just the world around them, but each other and themselves. Still, an uneasiness lingered at the edge of his thoughts. They were nearing a boundary neither had defined, a place they hadn't quite mapped. "What if we step past something we can't undo?" he asked, his voice laced with quiet vulnerability. Claudia looked at him, her eyes steady, full of love, but also something braver, an invitation cloaked in tenderness and courage. The one line that must always be honored is that of mutual respect. As long as we're transparent about our boundaries and keep communication honest, we remain safe. We've chosen this path out of care, for each other, and for the trust we've intentionally cultivated. In the end, that's what truly counts. Her words struck something profound within him. It became clear to Julian that genuine trust meant being seen, entirely, without pretenses, and without fear of judgment. That kind of openness was an expression of love, the bravery to walk into discomfort together, side by side. He gazed at her, warmth blooming in his chest as the intensity of the moment softened into something tender and deeply personal. "Then let's go for it," he said. "Let's find out just how far we can travel. Together." Claudia's smile matched his, and their kiss held both anticipation and uncertainty. The night stretched out before them, full of possibilities and the unfamiliar. No matter what lay ahead, the bond between them remained the constant. That was their foundation. The morning following their visit to the swingers' club, they woke in quiet companionship. Soft sunlight streamed through the curtains, casting delicate patterns across the room. Julian turned his head to study Claudia's sleeping face. She looked peaceful, a gentle smile playing on her lips, her hair fanned out on the pillow like strands of silk. Everything about her serene, effortlessly beautiful. The previous night had been a leap into unfamiliar territory. They hadn't done anything beyond what they were ready for. Instead, they had observed, spoken, and connected in ways they hadn't before. Even so, Julian found himself tangled in more questions than answers. When Claudia opened her eyes and met his, the silence between them felt thoughtful, almost sacred. But Julian felt moved to speak. "How are you feeling?" he asked, his voice still thick with sleep. She took a slow breath before responding. "I'm all right. Actually, better than I thought I'd be." Her lips curved into a small, sincere smile as she reached out to gently touch his face. It was odd, but it also felt liberating. "What about you?" Julian took a moment, letting his thoughts settle. "I feel changed," he admitted. "Watching you last night, so composed, so confident, it made me realize there's still so much of you I haven't yet discovered. That's a little overwhelming, but also kind of exciting." He paused again, searching for the right way to express it. "I'm not sure if I want to push further, but I'm glad we tried, that we allowed ourselves to explore." Claudia nodded, her expression thoughtful. "I feel the same. I'm unsure about continuing down that path, but going through it together, whatever it was, made me feel closer to you in a way I didn't realize we needed." They spent the rest of the morning talking. Every moment, every sensation, was unpacked with curiosity, not criticism. There was no shame, only a shared effort to understand what they had experienced. As the hours passed, the connection between them deepened. What had taken years to build now felt even more rooted, more alive. A calm had settled between them, light and freeing, as if they had released something heavy they hadn't realized they'd been carrying. Later, while preparing dinner side by side, Claudia turned to Julian, her face pensive. "I've been thinking," she said cautiously. Julian put down the knife he was using and gave her his full attention. "Thinking about what?" "About where we go from here. About us," she said. "I think what drew me to this wasn't just curiosity. It was the need to reconnect, to rediscover what we have." She paused, then continued more slowly. "But I'm scared that this could become a pattern, that we'll keep chasing newness because we're afraid that what we have might stop being enough." Her voice was calm, but her words held weight. Julian understood. Her fear was real. Something meant to bring them closer could easily shift into an endless pursuit of excitement, always looking elsewhere rather than within. He stepped toward her and gently held her hands. "I've thought about that too," he said, his voice quiet. "But I think what mattered most wasn't what we saw out there. It's what it showed us in here." He brought her hand to his chest, letting her feel the steady beat of his heart. "If it helped us see each other more clearly, more fully, then it was worthwhile. We don't have to keep going down that road, Claudia. We just have to keep choosing each other, as we are, every day." Her eyes glistened with emotion as she nodded. "You're right. It was never about the place or the people. It's how the experience reminded me that there are still parts of you I haven't reached, still places in us we haven't touched." That evening, their meal became a quiet celebration of the closeness they had rekindled. They spoke openly, about hopes, about fears, about the needs they'd left unspoken for years. Conversations unfolded gently, revealing layers they hadn't dared explore before. Later, as they lay together in bed, they felt more in sync than they had in a long time. It had never really been about the club, or what they might do again. It was about being open, completely open, about stepping into not just physical experiences, but emotional depths. And in that moment of shared vulnerability, they understood. True intimacy wasn't defined by action, but by presence, by choosing to stay, fully, honestly, soul to soul. In the days following their deeply personal conversation, something intangible yet profound began to shift between Claudia and Julian. Their experience at the Swingers Club had awakened a new intensity, an emotional depth that went far beyond the realm of physical connection. They started seeing each other in a new light, as if the fire that once sparked their early love had been quietly rekindled. One evening, as they sat side by side on their porch with wine in hand and dusk settling around them, Julian broke the silence with words that caught Claudia completely off guard. "Remember what you said at the club? That moment when you talked about how it felt seeing someone else desire me?" Claudia nodded slowly, unsure of where his thoughts were heading. "I haven't stopped thinking about it," he admitted. "At first I chalked it up to jealousy, but it wasn't just that. It was fear. Fear that maybe we'd lost something, that maybe we weren't enough anymore." Claudia watched him closely, her expression tender and calm. "Julian," she said, her voice low and steady, "it's never been about lacking anything. It's always been about uncovering more of who we are, together." He let out a long breath, as if releasing something he'd carried silently for too long. "I see that now," he said, "but in that moment, I felt completely exposed. Like standing on a stage, every insecurity lit up for the world to see." He paused, gaze drifting into the fading light. "But looking back, I think it was that same rawness that pulled us even closer." Claudia reached out, cupping his face gently in her hands. "It was," she whispered. "And in that moment, I fell even more in love with you, because you chose to be real with me. You let yourself be seen, and it reminded me that what we share doesn't need anything added to be extraordinary." That night, as their laughter flowed easily and conversation felt light and unforced, like it hadn't in ages, Julian turned to her, a spark dancing in his eyes. "You know what I think we should do?" he asked. "Let's just get in the car and go. No map, no plan. Just the two of us and the road." Claudia looked at him in surprise, her brows arching before her lips curved into an excited smile. "That sounds amazing," she said. "Let's drop everything," she added, her voice carrying a wistful edge. "Step away from the routine and find out who we are again, outside of all the noise." 2 days later, that's exactly what they did. With no destination in mind, they drove through winding back roads, explored small, forgotten towns, shared stories with strangers, and got lost more than once, only to rediscover one another with every detour and adventure. There was no schedule, just a shared desire to explore the world, and more importantly, to explore each other anew. One afternoon, as they strolled hand in hand through an endless field of lavender, Claudia stopped walking and turned toward him. "I don't think I've ever felt so alive," she said, eyes shining. "So complete. You've brought something back in me I didn't even know I had lost. This sense of wonder, of curiosity. Not just about life, but about us." Julian smiled, then leaned in and kissed her slowly, deliberately, surrounded by the sweet scent of lavender beneath a wide open sky. It was a quiet kiss, but it carried depth. "Maybe we forgot," he murmured, "that real love isn't supposed to be easy. It's meant to change, to challenge us." They held each other close, absorbing the richness of the moment. Every look, every touch, echoed with the history they'd built and the dreams still ahead. As the sun melted into the horizon, painting the sky in shades of gold, Julian whispered something that made Claudia's heart skip. "I want us to wake up every morning and choose each other, deliberately, bravely. I want us to keep redefining what we mean to one another." Tears welled in her eyes as she answered. "I want that too," she said, voice trembling with emotion. "I want us to be this beautiful, evolving story, something we get to discover again and again." Later that evening, with the soft glow of a campfire flickering before them, they clinked their glasses together in a quiet toast, to love, to courage, and to the mystery of what lay ahead. And for the first time in what felt like forever, the future didn't feel uncertain in a frightening way. It felt wide open, full of promise, like a horizon ready to be embraced. This story has come to an end. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you like this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you.